Is Volodymyr Zelensky a dictator? That's the debate making headlines after U.S. President Donald Trump labeled him a dictator without elections. This shocking remark follows Zelensky's claim that Trump is living in a Russian-made disinformation space. The feud between the two leaders has escalated at a critical time, just as the U.S. engages in high-level talks with Russia and Saudi Arabia, leaving Ukraine out of the discussions. But what does this all mean for Ukraine's future?
A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. Got to move fast, because...
Тобто, на жаль, президент Трамп з великою повагою до нього відносимося як до лідера народу, який ми дуже поважаємо, американський народ, який нас постійно підтримує. На жаль, живе в цьому дезінформаційному просторі.
Zelensky came to power as a democratic leader, winning a landslide election in 2019. However, since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, Ukraine has been under martial law, suspending elections indefinitely. His government argues that holding elections during war is impossible, while critics see this as a troubling sign of unchecked power. The reality is that Zelensky has cracked down on opposition parties and centralized control over media and security forces. Supporters say this is necessary wartime governance. But skeptics ask, has Ukraine's democracy eroded under the pressure of war?
He was a comedian who made a living acting on stage, frequently pretending to be a transvestite, doing things with various body parts that I won't go into. Now, when he originally ran for office, he ran on a peace platform. And he was overwhelmingly elected across the country because he said, if I am elected as your president, I will make peace with Russia. Ukrainians didn't want to go to war with Russia. They were looking for a way out of this and a resolution to the crisis. Of course, once he was in there, he took a different road.
Trump's statements mark a major shift in U.S. policy towards Ukraine. Under Biden, the U.S. poured over $65.9 billion in military aid to Kyiv. Now Trump is signaling an America First approach, questioning the sustainability of U.S. involvement. He claims Zelensky talked the U.S. into spending billions on an unwinnable war and hints at cutting future aid.
Zelensky admits that half of the money that we sent them is missing. They don't know where the money is. He said, well, we don't know where half of it is. That's great, wonderful. He refuses to have elections. It's low in the real Ukrainian polls. I mean, how can you be high with every city is being demolished? It's hard to be high. Somebody said, oh, no, his polls are good. Give me a break. Every city is being demolished. They look like a demolition site, every single one of them. And the only thing he was really good at was playing Joe Biden like a fiddle.
His administration is also pushing for peace negotiations with Russia, a move that excludes Ukraine from the table. This has raised concerns. If Trump secures a deal with Putin, will Ukraine have any say in its own fate?
And Zelensky probably maybe he wants to keep the gravy train going. I don't know what's the problem, but he hasn't been able. He's very upset that he wasn't invited. He could have come if he wanted to, but that he wasn't invited to Saudi Arabia. But he's been working for 3 years. There's never been even meetings or phone calls to stop this war. It's a horrible thing. I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered, and millions of people have unnecessarily died.
World leaders have reacted differently to Trump's remarks. Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz condemned them as false and dangerous. The UK's Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, defended Zelensky, calling the wartime election suspension reasonable. Meanwhile, Russia's leadership welcomed Trump's tone shift, seeing an opening for diplomacy. Meanwhile, European nations fear that if the U.S. backs away from Ukraine, they may have to shoulder more responsibility for the war effort. This raises a key question. Will Trump's approach embolden Russia to push forward in Ukraine? Ukraine now faces a pivotal moment. Can Zelensky maintain public trust without elections? And if peace talks proceed without Kyiv's involvement, does Ukraine risk losing control over its own future?
Ми незалежна Україна, і мені здається, в час цієї війни наш народ, і я особисто в перемовинах зі Сполученими Штатами Америки і з Трампом, і з Байденом, і з іншими європейськими лідерами довели, що з нами риторика «сідай і слухай» не працююча.
The stakes have never been higher. And as world powers reshape their alliances, the future of Ukraine hangs in the balance.